Hello everyone, this is Genius Yoshi, and today we are bringing a super fun list. It's a combo list that I like to call a whole world of Stitch. Mostly because we're going to be playing a whole lot of cards, thanks to two powerhouses in the metagame. First one, you must have guessed it, Stitch Rockstar. So Stitch Rockstar allows you to draw a card whenever you play a character costing 1 or 2 ink, as long as you exert that character as a cost. Oftentimes when you get that ability to survive one turn and just play 2 or 3 characters, you essentially get those for free, and it's oftentimes enough to just win the game on its own. If you can land that for 2 turns without the opponent having mass removal, you've almost assuredly won the game. So people are familiar with this card, very strong card, very flood heavy. But you know about another card that's really flood heavy? A Whole New World. Each player discards their hands and draws 7 cards. And the reason why we're playing these two cards together is for the same reason. Stitch Rockstar wants us to be playing a whole bunch of 1-drops and 2-drops so we can flood the board. When we flood the board, we empty our hand. And that's a drawback. Stitch allows us to refuel our hand as we play characters. And A Whole New World allows us to refuel our hand, well, when we play A Whole New World. So the both are good ways to refuel our hand. But now, that's a 5-drop and a 6-drop. It's late in the game, and we need to fill our deck with 1-drops and 2-drops. So we need some acceleration. But we do not have ramp, so what's our play here? We can play Small Stitch. Small Stitch is a 1-drop, fits right in the strategy. We can shift Big Stitch on top of it on turn 4. Pretty standard combo. It's a proven strategy. You just gotta be careful about Dragon Fire or the opponent playing a Fire to Cannon on the Small Stitch before you get to shift the Rockstar on top of it. And how do we make A Whole New World faster? Well, there's Ariel, Spectacular Singer. And this card is candy in this deck. It's just perfect. Except for the fact that it costs 3. But, I mean, near perfect. Why? Because when you play Ariel, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and you look for a song. If you hit a song, you put it in your hand. You can ink the song, or more importantly, you can pick up A Whole New World. So Ariel searches for A Whole New World. But not only that, but there's this little line here that's often forgotten. Ariel is a Singer 5, which means that you get to play 1-drop, 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 Ariel, drop your hand, play A Whole New World, refuel your hand as soon as turn 4. Turn 4, without using an ink. You can ink a card in your hand and then just play whatever's left until you only have A Whole New World left in your hand. And your opponents play like 2 cards at this point. They have to discard a ton of cards while you discard nothing and draw a Mitful. Extremely powerful combo that synergizes very well with what we're trying to do. Not to mention the really nice, we are playing a Spectacular Singer right next to a Rockstar. It's the perfect musical match to our musical ears of Lorcana. Although I'm not playing any music in the video, but you get what I mean. Just on the dot for the synergies in terms of the cards. And then, well, ideally we'd like to have another song, so our other search is Be Our Guest. So Ariel searches for A Whole New World, Be Our Guest searches for Stitch. Ariel can also pick up Be Our Guest to search for Stitch. All the cards that synergize well together, they're going to be the only 2 song hits for Ariel, but they are sufficient. So if we look, we have this very coherent list of songs that go with Ariel, with discard, with tons of draw, with acceleration. And then we move on to the rest of the list. That's going to be pretty boring, to be honest. We need to fill it with 1-drops and 2-drops. So let's start the dance. For Captain Hooks, one of the best 1-drops in the game, we're going to be playing Goons because there's only so many 1-drops we can. Heihei, why not? Little Quester, give a bit of support. We need all the 1-drops we can. Lilo. Actually, it's probably number one drop on my list. We get to play Lilo, we get to play Simba, the infamous combo. You play the 2-quester, you play the bodyguard. So we're obviously going to include those. Another inclusion that I shouldn't mention is Simba Future King. When you play this card, you may draw a card, then discard a card. Helps us dig just a little deeper for our combo pieces. If we're stuck with like 3 A Whole New World in your hand, Simba's going to allow us to trade one of these cards in. So it's a nice little inclusion. As we get more sets, this list might still see play and we can optimize the 1-drops and 2-drops. Aladdin, Cornered Swordsman. I wouldn't play it in most other decks, but it's a 2-quester, costs 2, makes the list. Lefou, it's a 2-quester, costs 2, makes the list. Same argument. Minnie Mouse, why not? She's wearing a crown. How can we go wrong? Prince Eric? Well, this one's actually a pretty decent 2-drop on the offense. Notice how there is no discrimination between the 1-drops and 2-drops. We're just playing what's available because the core of the deck is just so strong. And another inclusion would be Rapunzel, gifted with healing. She's the one card that I like to include in the deck that's not a 1-drop, 2-drop, or a core combo piece, simply because it's one of the most powerful cards that's available. It's in our colors. It allows us to draw into our combo pieces, allows us to heal maybe Prince Eric, maybe Simba, some of our 3 willpower characters. And now I realize that I've actually put 64 cards in my deck, so I'm going to be cutting one of the weakest 1-drops, like these ones. Sorry, goons. I thought you were going to make the cut, but you're not going to make the cut. How do I remove it? Add cards. Show deck. There we have it. The perfect rockstar part of your world deck list if you want a whole world of Stitch. And now it's time to see the deck in action with some games. Let's see if we can get a good show again. Ariel, Stitch, A Whole New World, and a really nice curve. Love it. We're going to keep it. We are going second, but we are going to get a spectacular song festival. Opponent inks John Silver. So opponent is on Amber Emerald. Oh, and we top deck the Stitch. Perfect top decks all around. Be our guest going into the ink pool as Lilo enters the fray on our side as well. Pass the turn to our opponent. Lilo, the aggressive quester of nightmares. Look at that evil smile she has, just saying, I'm going to rush. As our opponent plays a Flynn Rider. Flynn Rider, a 2-quester. Whenever I challenge it, I have to discard a card. But it's only 1/2. So I want to play Minnie Mouse here. So I'm going to ink my Aladdin. I don't really want to race on board, so I'm actually going to challenge the Lilo. Or more a combo deck than an aggressive deck. We're going to play the Minnie Mouse and pass the turn. So Minnie Mouse, I normally don't overly like playing, but in this deck she fits right in. Just protection from fire to cannon allows us to trade with a lot of the early game drops like Flynn Rider. And she'll stick alive. Now we're on 3. I really want to sing Part of Your World. So maybe I get a little greedy here. I can ink one at Ariel. Our opponent, Amber Emerald. Our opponent doesn't have any removal at all. It's only Genie that's a concern. Actually, our opponent's going to benefit from us drawing cards too. That's something to consider. Let's go with Ariel. And we miss. That's okay. Next turn we can go Little Stitch, Simba, Whole New World. Alright, so we're gonna discard Big Stitch here. Minnie Mouse takes down the 2 quests our opponent had in play. And our Spectacular Singer kind of whiffed on her ability. And whenever we play her, we look at the top 4 cards. We can reveal a song to put into our hand. But she also has another little ability here, Singer 5, which is going to allow us... Ooh, we need to discard 2. You have forgotten me. Well, apparently not. Opponent quests for 1. Ooh, a Rapunzel. Since our opponent's low on card, do we want to combo now, or do we just want to leverage Rapunzel? I mean, the other option is we ink Rapunzel and sing a Whole New World. Then we dump our hand into play. It's a little odd, but we're going to do it. This combo is going to get rid of 2 of our opponent's cards. And we're going to have a full new hand to play with our full ink available to us. So big switch of tempo. And I really wanted to have a card to ink anyways. So a Whole New World fits right in. We draw another Whole New World, which is interesting. But for now, we're going to settle with playing a pair of 2-drops. And we might as well quest with Minnie at this point. I don't overly care about that Cruella de Vil. She can be ignored. Opponent inks another John Silver. So our opponent's curve does go pretty high. This is the linchpin of our strategy, a Whole New World. Just sing it for 5, each player discard their hand and draw 7 new cards. Opponent invests into Hans, a 3-quester, 3/3. Our opponent still has 6 cards in hand too. I'm tempted to just Whole New World again. But dumping the hand into play first. I would like to resolve the Stitch at some point for more cards. How much can we put in play this turn? We could sing Be Our Guest. See if we can find another cheap character and then go Ariel, Heihei, and another character. Let's go with that. So let's sing Be Our Guest. We find a Lilo. So we are just going to go for a large amount of pressure. We're going to ink another Rapunzel, maximizing the use of the cards in our hand. We'll play an Ariel. We miss, but that's okay. Drop Heihei, drop Lilo, and sing a Whole New World yet again, wasting 6 cards from our opponent's hand and drawing a fresh set of cards for next turn. And this game is a Whole New World. And now we just quest with everything, because we have a lot more questing power than our opponent. Of course, we will take down Hans next turn using Prince Eric. Now we have 7 characters to our opponent's 2, and an even mid of cards into our hands. Card count, we have 33 left, 34 for our opponent, as our opponent plays Maximus. A big bodyguard supporter for 5. Opponent plays sudden chill. Each opponent discards a card. Alright, if you insist, I can get rid of Heihei. Opponent sang that with Cruella de Vil. Cruella's actually a pretty good singer now that I think about it. Because we don't really want to challenge her. She doesn't quest for much, but she sure can sing. And get the value out of that. Opponent quests with Hans as the turn passes back to us. Now, how much does our opponent have? 1, 4, 5. So our opponent's still 2 turns away from winning. While we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We go to 13. And we can present a pretty dangerous threat playing both Aladdins and Lefou. Again, mostly because our opponent has no way of dealing with it. So we're going to ink a hook. Just put our hand on the board and quest like there's no tomorrow. Because for our opponent, there is no tomorrow. There's only 1 turn left. We're going to give Lilo a little bit more combat power because we can, thanks to Heihei. And now I've played so many cards, I'm not sure what to highlight. Because the real highlight is part of your world, doing essentially the same thing that Stitch does, which is giving us a constant flow of cheap characters to put into play. And even the aggressive curve of our opponent's Emerald lineup doesn't match up to what we're playing. And our opponent played a good card. I mean, Maximus, a solid card, but it's just too slow compared to the huge pressure that we're putting out. Now the opponent's forced to challenge, but there's not enough things to challenge. And I can't think of any card in Emerald Amber that could get our opponent out of that. There's John Silver. I have to get reminded what that card does. I think it has to do with recklessness. Chosen opposing character gains Reckless, which means they must quest. Well, it's like Smith said in The Matrix, there's just so many of me. So many characters in play. It doesn't really matter which one you target. Opponent can quest for 4. Our Minnie Mouse cannot quest. But our little Aladdins, our Lilo, and we'll give last quest to Ariel. We'll get this stuff done and win the game, overwhelming our opponent, thanks to a whole new world. Let's see if we can pull out our awesome combos this game. We have Stitch in a Stitch and an Ariel in the opening hand, a Lilo to play, and inkable cards. That'll do just right. So we're going to ink our worst 1-drop, the Goons. Then we're going to play Lilo. Just the aggressive opening. Unfortunately, we do not have a Simba. But we're not playing super hard aggro. So we don't need the turn 2 Simba. We're going to slow play this, drop Stitch on turn 4, and then get the engine going. We draw Lefou. Since the opponent's not applying any pressure, no, the opponent's Ruby. I'm not afraid of Ruby. I think I'd prefer Aladdin to Lefou here. So we're going to ink Lefou, play Aladdin, then pass the turn. I'd rather have a combat strength. Let's see if our opponent has anything on turn 2. Inks a Maui. And Gaston comes in. Gaston, Reckless. So he's going to have to challenge if it can. Now we're on turn 3. I really want to have Stitch on turn 4. And the opponent has no way to remove it. So you definitely want to go Stitch, something else, and ink card. I think we ink Ariel in this case. Because I can't see our opponent taking down Stitch. So I'm going to play Stitch New Dog. Play Simba as a bodyguard. And quest aggressively. Even if our opponent has removal for Simba and Lilo, we still get to resolve a Stitch Rockstar next turn. I'd rather that than the opponent aiming their removal at small Stitch, if our opponent was playing Steel and had to fire the cannons, for example. Although fire the cannons wouldn't do the trick to take out Simba. Opponent inks a Big Mickey, brave little tailor. Gaston takes out Simba. And it's a Maleficent. Okay, so Ruby and Amethyst, which means that our opponent's only mass removal spell is Be Prepared. There's single target removal, but it's only on 5 in the form of Dragonfire. So our opponent is completely at the mercy of our shifted Stitch. Waiting on the opponent to finish their turn here. As I do need to present some of these cards. Gaston was the Reckless that I forgot to show. And Shield of Virtue. I've seen some players play that. It's a 1-drop item, and you can pay 3 to ready a character, but it can't quest. It's kind of Moana's ability. I'm not sure why people are playing this. You really... Paying 3 to ready a character is a big cost, and you're already investing a card playing that into play. I don't know. I don't think it's worth it. At this point... Oh, yeah, we need to ink a card. It's going to be Our Guest. And then we can finally shift our Rockstar. And Stitch Rockstar is basically going to win us the game here. Whenever we play a character costing 2 or less, we may play it exerted to draw a card. I am not exerting Stitch here because I don't want our opponent to be playing something reckless like a Gaston and then Maleficent Gaston take out Stitch. That would be backbreaking for us. I don't really mind losing the Lilo. Opponent plays an Aladdin. Removes one of our lore. Aladdin Street Rat. Just a 2-1. Removes 1 lore when it comes into play. It's really a shift target for Daddy Aladdin. But for now, we're just going to be playing a whole bunch of stuff. So Captain Hook, Simba, without bodyguard, but then we'll exert it due to Stitch's ability. Drawing another Stitch. Let's play the Stitch. Activate the ability. We draw Ariel. I think we keep the Ariel. And we'll ink Lefou. And of course we're gonna go on a quest with our own Aladdin. Now we're basically forcing our opponent to challenge all our stuff. But Aladdin's just a 2-2, Maleficent's just a 2-2. Opponent needs a Dragonfire for Stitch. And even then, we are at 11 lore right now, to 0. And we still have a combo piece in hand. Ariel, Spectacular Singer, is going to go fetch in the top 4 cards of our deck for a song. Hopefully a whole new world, which would allow us to play even more cards. Which we could sing it with the Rockstar. Very on theme. Stitch great at getting a horde of characters, and great at singing. Of course, exerting Stitch comes with its own downsides, but our opponent is still far enough from playing Be Prepared and sees the writing on the wall. They can't beat Stitch, and so our opponent resigns. And that's a game in a bag for the Stitch combo deck. Alright, what do we have here? Aladdin's, a big Stitch, a small Stitch, and Ariel. I would like another 1-drop, to be honest. But I'm not willing to invest too much into it. I invest 1 mulligan and I find a perfect 1-drop. Now that's the way to do it. I probably should have sent the Minnie Mouse back. But we find a turn 1 Lilo as we pass the turn. So we have the infamous Lilo into Simba, into Ariel. Opponent thinks to let it go, so our opponent does have single target removal. Then plays a Develop Your Brain. Turn passes back to us. Since our opponent didn't play anything, we can play the more aggressive line here. I only know our opponent's going to be playing some level of ramp. Yeah, I'm still going to ink the Minnie. I'm going to go over the more aggressive Aladdin follow-up. So I have the pair of 2 questers, since our opponent is not applying any kind of counter pressure at this point. Opponent inks a Tamatoa and plays Aurora. Alright, well, since we do have access to Stitch, it's tempting to go small Stitch into Simba, but I want to be careful about our opponent shifting a big Aurora on top here and playing Let It Go onto our Stitch. Although that would probably be fine. We just keep Ariel as a backup. Yeah, let's go with that line. So we're going to go with the Stitch Simba line, just to defend our weaker characters. And we'll pass the turn back to our opponent. Simba being the 2/3 bodyguard we've all learned to love while we're playing it and love to hate when we're playing against it. Opponent plays a smash, so it's a steel amethyst. This is probably the matchup where we need to be the most careful, because our opponent has a wide board wipe. Our opponent has a lot of single target removal in Hades and Let It Go. But for now, they're just smashing our stuff. I want to make sure that our opponent doesn't shift and Let It Go, so I'm going to challenge it with Aladdin. I'm going to ink an Ariel and play a Stitch Rockstar, shifting it on top of my small Stitch, and steal and sapphire. I don't think our opponent has any kind of rush or can take advantage of me exerting Stitch, so I'm going to take the 3 lore here. I don't think it puts Stitch in any more risk than what it already has, which is our opponent would need to fire the cannons and a smash and an inkable card. Opponent inks a frying pan. Oof. An opponent who plays frying pan plays a bell. Oh yeah, I mean with the Tamatoa. Our opponent's playing an items tribal deck. But we get to resolve Stitch. Free Prince Eric. Free Aladdin. And our opponent resigns. Stitch is too much. You get one turn of Stitch on the board and just dropping 1-drops and 2-drops, and it's oftentimes enough to win the game. I hope that you've enjoyed this video featuring a whole world of Stitch, with Stitch Rockstar and a whole new world taking the centerpiece of the deck into a very consistent combo type strategy. Especially with the partial mulligan, finding the combo pieces early on is not that hard. We have searching capabilities to go and find them. So in terms of games, how many games did it take me to present you with these 3 games of gameplay? It took me 3 games. They're the first 3 games I played, and just this is what happened. So the deck has some consistency built into it. You are going to get some games where you don't find your combo pieces, but between the partial mulligan and the fact that you get some draw steps and the fetching abilities, you should be able to at least play one of the combo pieces. Now, whether that gets answered or not will depend a little bit on your poker face and how the opponent tends to react and which inks they're playing. But I digress. I hope that the games were enjoyable, that you're going to have fun playing some variants of the deck, or that you've just had fun watching it and laugh as we filled the board with tons of characters. I hope that you will subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling me what you'd like to see next and what you think of the list. And I'll see you next time.